July 7th, 10:03, the policy committee meeting. Welcome, everybody. And I guess we can get right to it. The first thing is under B is policy 626, federal fiscal compliance. Now I had asked Christine, and while we'll get to that later, there's no ARs or anything with this one?
No.
Okay. I'm curious why, because if we're dealing with the finances, why the business manager isn't included on that first page.
On which one are you referring to? 626?
Oh,
I see. Where the check marks
600
are. Okay.
finances, yeah.
Yep.
I would think delegation of responsibility, Joni should absolutely be involved in that with federal finances.
Would you like to?
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, which, no, you have 6 choices here. Are you?
I'm on the very first one, 626, federal fiscal compliance.
The fiscal compliance. Okay,
Right,
thank you.
sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
You
That's,
should
mhm.
go.
Well.
It's good, they're, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Just in our policies, please don't ask me which number it is. But it does say somewhere in one of our policies that whenever the word superintendent is used, it also means that the superintendent has the power to make a designee. So it's, I'm sorry, I don't remember the number of that policy, but it does say that somewhere in our policy. So if you want to put 2 people, you know, the superintendent and the business manager, I understand that. But if it's just the superintendent, the superintendent always has the power to delegate it to someone. So I'm not sure what's
And-
best for you folks.
And if you
And-
read, because I think the reason that we had originally chose that is because it says and serves as the district contact for all federal programs and funding, and that is currently how that works. So any contact that comes from the state or the federal level about federal programs goes to Dr. Redmond. And then it filters whether it's fiscal or whether it's program.
Mhm.
So that's why we kind of thought that one wasn't best as business manager, it was best as superintendent, because then he would then delegate to the business manager in that case, because he will always remain the district contact for all things federal programs.
Okay,
What do you think?
it's okay. We discussed the wording last time about the superintendent and somebody else to be contacted, and we had talked about instead of designee and making sure we had somebody in there. Because in the line under it says the superintendent or designee in collaboration with the federal programs coordinator
And business
and the
manager.
business
Right.
manager. Okay,
So it's built in there, but in terms of the contact, like who
okay,
the state or the feds contact about something, it would come to the superintendent.
all right.
And then you could decide
Yes, right.
what, I mean, that sounds totally reasonable to me. I mean,
Okay, I'm good with it. I just wanted to double check because I figured that anything to deal with the money side of it, Joni should be involved. Anything to deal with the federal side of it, you and
Justin and Megan, yes.
yeah, Megan should be involved in it. And then on the back page of the same thing,
last page.
huh?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
the last page.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I'm looking at this. I'm not looking at my screen. It said the district shall provide written notification to employees of their rights, protections under the whistleblower law by
Mhm.
posting notices.
Mhm.
Is that in the district handbook also?
We don't have a district handbook necessarily.
Oh, we don't have an employee one. Okay, I did not
We have
know
one
that.
that's kind of being created, but we don't have anything firm yet. That's not a requirement for us to have one. It is a
Okay.
requirement for us to maintain a website, so we thought it'd be safer just to have that.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know. That's why I wanted to ask about it. All right, the second one, the administration of the federal funds.
Oh, are we done with this one? Yeah, okay,
There was
Yeah.
nothing to change on that, correct?
Huh?
Correct.
Nothing.
Yeah, that was
Thank you.
good.
looks really good, thank you.
Uh,
The second one, okay.
The second one, administration of the federal funds. I see should it be Megan on all of them, or should it be also Joni involved since it has to deal with the funds?
It
Bring me
is
up
kind
to
of,
speed.
if you look down there, it's kind of depending on what thing they're talking about. It's either business manager or federal programs coordinator,
Right,
but not everybody for everything.
okay,
Oh, maybe, Miss-
go ahead.
thank you. Pardon my ignorance, but who is our federal programs coordinator?
Justin,
Oh, HR Justin?
yes.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't know that. I thought Megan was.
Megan and Justin work really hand in hand with it, but officially Justin, when we moved him to HR director because of our district size, he officially is our federal programs coordinator. He's on vacation right now, which is why he's not here, and HR.
Okay, I did not know that.
Justin, Joni and I do kind of everything together for it. Just because it's a lot, so you don't.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
really
that's
great-
what-
It's not best practice to have
One
just
set of
one
eyes.
set of eyes on it.
I agree.
It's a lot
That-
of money.
I agree. That's why here on paper, should the business manager be marked on them also?
Again, on some things, yes, on some things, it's not necessary.
Yeah, like that
Big-
first one, Chris, like that first one, carryover will be calculated and documented. Like that's all in the grant application and writing process, which is
Right.
what Justin and I do. So even though it's fiscal, how much money do we have to carry over? We actually document it in the grant.
They
Justin
kind
and I
of
do.
create.
Well, it's like you just said that one set of eyes on it isn't good. But if you go down through here and look, it's pretty much one set of eyes on everything. That's why I'm asking,
Although Megan and Justin kind of create the plan
right?
and implement the plan, and then once a month at least, we all meet, but I also do the quarterlies. So I see all the expenses. Actually, we update a spreadsheet monthly. So I do see where all the money is going per their plan.
Okay,
I mean, I don't think it would hurt if you were okay with selecting two to say business manager and federal programs coordinator for those, because again, in real life, we do everything together.
I just want to make that's why if it's not a big deal, maybe both of them should be marked. But,
I don't think from a logistical or practical standpoint that changes anything. I think that
Okay.
probably just would reflect what we actually do,
Mhm.
which is each have a hand. So
Chris, may I?
go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I see what Chris is saying. Because we're doing this with the understanding that we're gonna be gone someday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we do this. And this is adding another layer, but if it would say federal programs coordinator and team, or federal programs team, but that's gonna add another definition and everything, but, so they have a federal program
Mhm.
team, but it's not
But it's
defined
not
in the
listed in
policy.
there.
So that's where I think you're going, but
It'd be easy enough for us to, I'm sorry for interrupting, for us
No.
to just check business manager, where it's only federal programs coordinator and federal programs coordinator where it's only business manager, so you have both
Yeah.
of those. going.
Right,
That's easy-
I'd
that's an
like
easy
to
enough
see it
change.
because looking at it, it looks, okay, there's more than one set of eyes on it.
yeah, I think that's totally fair and I think it reflects what we actually do. So
Okay,
that's good. That's a good compromise.
So just to make sure we're clear, we'll make those changes and then assuming that the rest of this is gonna go to the board, we'll include that,
yeah,
the changed version.
yeah.
Okay.
Christine, I'm just gonna put add changes on this one for both.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Just again, to be clear on, I don't even know what page this is, page 4.
Oh, there's multiple pages of it.
But there's one that the superintendent is marked.
Yeah, I saw that. Let me
Page
get
4?
back
Yep.
to it.
Will determine when an extension happens. So the extension involves any change in the approved scope of the project. The business manager and federal programs coordinator, after we make that change, will determine when an extension must be requested for approval. I'm going from page 3 to page 4. By
Right,
the federal awarding agency, the draft the written request and notify the superintendent of the requested extensions. So they'll do it and it comes to me because I have to sign off
Right.
on it on the program. So I think that's an area where we
That
don't have
one's
to have
okay.
multiple checks on it because I have to ultimately sign off on the changes.
right.
Chris?
But again, just to be clear.
And that was my note, was, on that same page, number 4, if we could also check the board, just so the board is notified when an extension does happen. I don't think that would be too much of a hardship, right?
Yeah, just
Just so we're the board's notified.
so that
We
we're
don't do anything?
notified.
But just so we're notified. It shouldn't happen often.
I think
No.
the only question I would have is it says draft the written request and notify the superintendent. So if we needed an extension, if we checked board there, would it not, I don't think you could do it then until the board has a
Could-
written
Well,
request.
Could
Oh.
you put on it just board
Notification.
notification?
Well,
Yeah, I think that would be fair. I just don't, sometimes those are quick turnaround and deadlines and I don't want,
Time sensitive.
yeah, like sometimes they're like, you have 10 days to file this. And,
Right.
mhm.
that would be my only,
That could even, that wouldn't have to go to a meeting. You could just send an email out.
right.
Said we're asking for an extension, that's all.
Yeah. Man,
Yeah,
I see, Megan, the way I'm reading the English here, the grammar, is the federal programs coordinator determines the extension. And then there's the draft, they write the draft. They write the, they write the draft and then they notify the superintendent and the board. So I think, it's poor English, I'm sorry.
So maybe it's just a after request, put comma, and then notify.
Yeah, it's bad grammar,
Could
but I
do
think
that.
that's what it's trying to communicate, is
Yeah,
that
I
the
see that.
coordinator is doing everything, but then after it's done, just notify.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I
And
see
that's
what
all.
you're saying there. I think I read it the other way at first, but I see
It's
what you're
bad
saying.
grammar.
It could, like you say, it could be something as simple as an email.
Good.
Anything else on that one?
Oh, I think it's really, that was a good
That's
one.
that was an AR.
No, these are attachments to the policy.
Okay. Well, it had AR at the top.
It isn't, yeah.
All right, the next one, the cash management. There's really nothing that I saw kind of weird in this.
I don't see anything that's, unless this is totally brand new. This is basically everything they're already doing anyways.
Yeah. Mhm.
Or maybe they just lump it together just so you see it as one big group.
All right, any changes need made on that one? No. All right, grant subrecipient monitoring procedures. Is this the PSBA updated stuff?
Mhm.
Yes, and this is all based on federal requirements of how to do grant management stuff.
Okay,
So like everybody was recently monitored and then they take those monitoring findings and update, okay, here's based on our findings, here's what everybody should be doing.
right.
So there were minimal changes, but
Down on page 2 of that one has the business manager can consult with the school solicitor or other qualified counsel and making a determination. Should the federal programs coordinator be involved in that also?
this one's a little bit wonky and Joni, you can weigh in.
And then I have, or the superintendent, because then I have to say,
Yeah.
if we revert back to our policy.
Right, I should be in on that because I have to, okay,
I would
staff to
like that.
contact the solicitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
have
like
to
that.
okay anybody to get a
Mhm.
hold of the solicitor.
Right.
So that's
So,
page 2, check the superintendent, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
We'll make that change.
and that was the only question I had on that. It does say about on page 5, federal programs coordinator shall do the documentation from the recipient and all these audit reports.
Mhm.
Should Joni be involved in that also
Well, it says-
for a delegation of responsibility of that?
Yeah, I think it makes sense there to match what we did above and just put part of
Yeah,
the other one and put both.
Yeah.
so it would be actually on page 6, we just add the business manager in.
Oh, page.
And under record, do you want it also under record retention on the last page?
Yeah, because she's the one that
Right
is
to know.
the boss of that. So let me find where I was. One, two, three, four.
And then I had a question when you're done.
Christine, I'm just marking these on through and on the front page, putting a change. So you just have to flip the pages.
Okay, perfect.
Cause I'm sure you're with us anyway. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Okay. Page 7, I don't understand this, so I need some help here. This one I think is really important. Simply due to the occurrence that happened earlier this spring. On page 7, when it says follow-up actions, and when you get to the 4th, say paragraph, 4th line, it says the district shall require subrecipients to develop a corrective action plan to address other identified deficiencies or noncompliance issues. Such plan shall be submitted to the district. And I don't like that gray area, number 3, as specified in the agreed upon procedures. I have no idea what that means, but it just sounds like there's no black and white line there, just is sort of a gray area, and I'm not comfortable with that, but maybe I just don't understand it correctly.
Yeah, that should be almost within 60 days. At least a notification.
Well, I think, those 3 blocks there are about time, not necessarily about what things they will submit.
Right.
And I don't know, I guess, if we are asking grant subrecipients to respond to some sort of query, if we have something written in our procedures about how long it should take for them to respond. I mean, could we mark it as soon as possible?
Yeah, you could. Because if it's talking about illegal use of federal fundings, we need to know ASAP.
Well, this is more about the corrective action, but yeah, they need to fix it as soon as possible.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, so we'll change.
so we'll cross out as agreed upon and make it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
All right. And
And then we got the last one on the last page. So that's
the
the,
record retention, that has to have
Business
Joni
man.
involved in it because that flows with our other policy.
Yeah, good.
Anything else from anybody or any thoughts on anything?
No, sir.
All right. Then we'll go to attach allowability of costs in the federal programs. Yeah, see, that has everything marked, so you folks are all together on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see anything that really raised a flag on this. Any comments from anybody else?
Well, it's pretty cut and dry. It's
All right,
easy to understand.
you all good with that one? Frank?
It,
All right. Well, Christine, I didn't realize your notebook was gonna be so full today. And then procurement. Ah. Purchase methods is the business manager.
I have something when you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm on page 4.
Hang on, I'm still getting through it.
Oh, okay, we'll take your time.
Says, wait. Who is our purchasing agent?
This is one I
I
have.
guess I'm Julie,
Who is it?
Julie Evie.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's what I was wondering, cause I saw that marked on there and I'm not used to seeing that.
Yeah, that's one of my comments.
Okay. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Oh, okay, page 4. I would just leave it as the business manager in the first paragraph. You have 4 choices. Just leave it as the business manager, one set of eyes. I would get rid of the purchasing, uncheck the purchasing agent, keep them out of it.
Well, this is only for a request by an employee.
Right, right.
So that should go to the purchasing agent for her to look over it. And if we want to really watch what we're buying, 2 sets of eyes on it, I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think we chose that because it reflected the actual chain of command that we use.
It does, right,
Yeah.
and actually in the system, it actually flows that way.
Right. Yeah, because you don't want one person managing all the purchases.
Okay, so then who makes the final determination that they can purchase something?
Yeah.
See, that's why it's confusing to me, because it looks like both of you have the power. Unless if that's the way I'm reading it, that both of you have the power to do it, and I personally think there should be just one person.
There it is. It all funnels up to Joni.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is right now, the way I'm reading this is that the purchasing agent has the same equal power as the business manager.
I guess, so it says the purchase order or requisition shall submitted to, and our process is it goes to our purchasing agent before it gets to Joni. So I think it makes sense in terms of the way it operates. I don't think this policy, I don't read this policy to say that the purchasing agent can approve them, because that's a different part of the procedure about how this goes.
Yeah, I think it's that for requisition submitted to the, it's
Right.
super important there. It doesn't say approved by.
Okay, okay,
So I
just so it's, okay,
In the submission process, somebody can submit it to Julie and it follows the process.
This
Okay.
this is one step before what you're talking about.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
no,
it's
that's
just
fair enough.
submission.
It's a
Okay.
paper flow,
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
paper flow.
Yep.
Okay, my misunderstanding.
That way there's
Kind of
more than,
electronic paper
Yeah.
flow, but-
that way there's more than one set of eyes approving that purchase. The rest of it,
Well, this is page 4. I have a comment again on page 4, please.
go ahead, let me back up the bus here. Go ahead.
Okay. This, I feel very strongly about, simply because this is the way we used to do it, and then some way it stopped. And what's happened is now there's a disconnect. So the last line, contract shall be reviewed by, it just says business manager or designee.
You're on page 4?
Page 4, yes.
This
Where
one
am
actually
I?
has page numbers on it.
Yeah.
Which is
Huh?
nice.
This one actually has page numbers on it.
Yeah.
growing and growing. They're getting 6 years later.
But I'm not seeing what you're reading there.
Are you-
Under contract shall be reviewed
About
by,
halfway down,
yeah.
after the big line.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
Okay, thank you. All right, contract shall be reviewed by. I feel very strongly about this. The school solicitor used to review our contracts prior to the board president signing them. And that for some reason stopped. But there were times when the school solicitor did find little things. And I found those of great value.
Well, I agree with you on it. There should be no contract ever done unless it's looked over legally. I know I'm not gonna say where, but I know there's some different spots in the county here that have gotten in trouble because the solicitor didn't look it over. So I agree, a school solicitor should be looking at a contract before we do it.
Okay, let's check the box, please.
You guys have anything else on that?
It's an extra cost. It's just as long as we recognize that we're paying $175 an hour for that work, and if the whole board agrees to that, great. But I just
Absolutely. This
wanna
is
make sure
one
that that's-
time.
It's
But
recognized.
that could be keeping us out of a
I
major
don't
lawsuit.
disagree with you, but I want to make sure that we're explicitly saying that we're going to spend the money on this, and I'm okay with that. The board just needs to be aware that that's the choice.
Okay,
When it comes to contracts, this is, especially in today's world, a small little thing that might have been appropriate 5 years ago. Like when you keep renewing the same contract over and over and over again, that might be okay. But the world 5 years ago and the world 10 years ago is not.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not arguing with you.
Right, no, but
I'm
I just
Make sure
wanna-
we're
Right.
explicit about that.
I,
Well, that's
and
why if any board
I'm
member
real
says
tight
anything-
on spending all the money that we are, but there's some things that are smart money too.
Yeah, I'd
Ah.
rather pay it upstream versus
Like I said,
downstream.
Not arguing, just making sure we're being explicit.
On
Yeah.
page 9, where we're looking at cost when we're picking contracts, we have a list there, experience of contractor, availability, qualifications, da, 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 da. Should we put, under other, should we put local county-owned businesses and or co-stars in there also?
I don't understand.
Make our county-owned businesses have first choice to bid on something along with co-stars?
I'm sorry, you're on page 9?
Yeah,
I don't think.
I don't
we
see
can
cost-
ethically say that.
okay,
We, federal, regulations say that we must contact minority, women, veteran-owned businesses. We absolutely must do that per federal.
right, well, that's on there, no, well,
But we cannot say that we will contact local businesses first. We can absolutely make sure they're included on the list.
okay,
We just can't put and say.
Put it in
that,
words.
yeah.
Right.
okay,
Yeah, because these are all
Fair.
factors
Fair funding.
that we use to assess. It says competitive proposal shall be evaluated by the business manager and federal programs coordinator based on these factors. Cost is one of them, plus all those things we have checked. We could certainly put in other consideration for local business.
I think that's a great idea, just to show that we keep moving towards that, at least to the public and for the future board and for future administration, that is on our radar
Mhm.
and we want it on our radar. I like that idea, Dr. Redmond.
Yeah, other can be general enough that.
And then I had a question. Chair Chris, when you're.
go ahead.
Okay, page 9, please help me to understand this. It's under number 1, cost, but you can go all the way down, it's the second line of sentences. Evaluation shall be completed in a timely manner, documented and shall be reviewed by. What's the definition of an evaluation? I don't understand, I don't see that anywhere. What's an evaluation?
That's looking at all those
Things
factors.
The competitive proposals.
So it starts off on the bottom of page 8. It says competitive proposals shall be evaluated by the business manager and federal programs coordinator based on all of those factors. And then it gets to evaluation shall be completed in a timely manner, documented, and shall be reviewed by the superintendent, business manager, and federal programs. So the
Okay.
business manager, federal programs coordinator, look at all those factors and then create an evaluation. And then the three of us look at it and go, okay, so this is what the evaluation
Okay,
comes up with.
and then I just had a comment on that. Okay, thank you. I understand it better now. So I would also like the box checked for school solicitor with a caveat, though. School solicitor as needed. That way you don't, because you folks know your contracts, a lot of the contracts are just repeat or there's like little changes in them. But I do,
This is different than a contractor. Remember, we're evaluating bids at this point.
Yeah,
So
this-
this is a different section. Now we're evaluating, someone has said, hey, I
Oh.
want to work for you, and these are all the things that we said we're gonna
Right.
consider in that.
okay, so that's why I'm confused and maybe somebody else might be confused. So instead of it just you'd be interested in this concept. In front of the word evaluations, use whatever word is the trade word, bids, proposals, whatever that word is, but just so, because right now when I'm reading that, evaluation shall be completed. To me, it's all of the evaluations, but if you're only talking about a very specific evaluation, I'm just saying that would help the layman like me. And we're the folks that need to understand these things too. I'm sorry, but it would be reasonable to put something in front of the word evaluations, just to define what you're evaluating. Or is it completely unnecessary?
I think it's unnecessary, but it wouldn't, I mean, if we were to put competitive proposal evaluations shall be completed in a timely manner, blah, blah, blah.
Cause by the time you guys do all these evaluations and everything, then you bring it to the
Yeah, you
board
guys
for
you
us.
guys approve it.
We're not part of the evaluation.
correct.
No, we
You
don't want
guys
to be.
pick the top and then bring it to
Yeah.
us. So I don't think, excuse me, I don't think the solicitor is needed on that part of it.
Well, I just
Because the
meant,
solicitor is gonna come in on the contract.
okay, all right. No, I understand that. I mean, it makes sense. I just said school solicitor as needed.
Yeah, I think because on the page before we made it that he'll review contracts,
Okay,
that way he's not sitting in every single evaluation.
yeah, no, we don't want that. That'd be.
Okay,
Those folks don't need that kind of.
anything else? on-
Page 10.
Anything else?
Page 10.
What about page 10?
There was a
Yeah.
blank that hasn't been filled out.
Oh.
So I didn't know what you
Must
folks.
come up with an independence. Page 10.
It's right under
Yeah, that,
it really should say the federal programs coordinator.
Yep.
Yeah,
Will enact.
business practices.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should say, the federal programs coordinator, correct?
Yeah.
So we can make that change easy enough.
Huh?
Good. And then I have one last question on 10, please.
Hey, go ahead, Liz.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
I could just.
That's
be-
why we're here, to just cross our Ts and dot our Is.
Well, help me to understand, page 10, negotiated profit. I have never in my life heard that term, negotiated profit for a school district. So who's making a profit? Just, you mean
Contractor,
the,
so we're negotiating the profit margin that a contractor might make.
oh, not the
Right.
school district.
No, we're not allowed to do that.
We're not allowed to make we're not allowed to take money in the pocket.
I'm sorry, I'm not, my type of grammar is very different from their type.
Mhm.
So, okay, that was it. I just wanted to make sure. Yep.
Full and open competition. That looked all good. And debarment and suspension. All right,
Did you, when you're,
go ahead, Elizabeth.
one thing I learned from this, which was very disturbing, but on page, not that we're changing anything, I just wanted to bring this up. I was always, on page 16, I was always under the impression that the grant for, I'm not gonna, it's not called farm to table, but, food services, she's been wonderful getting those grants from the, ag, so we could buy locally quote
Right,
sourced foods for our kids or for the
Right.
students. And then I read that and it's like, well, they say that it's local food, but it's not really, it's local if it's like comes from somewhere that's not really quote our definition of local. And that was very, it's like one of those things, it's just, I was very not pleased to read that. I was always under the understanding that we're trying to support our local farmers when it's, could be a corporate farm 4 states away, doesn't make a difference. But be that as it may, that's the law.
Right, federal food procurement is a funky thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, they
Can't
marketed
change.
it and they,
can't change federal law.
no, I'm just very disappointed, but that's the reality.
Okay, anything else on that?
No, it's good.
All right,
So we'll move all of the stuff with 626 up to first read.
first read
the
with the
changes that
changes.
we talked about.
yeah.
Okay,
And we're gonna go to 621.1, travel reimbursement.
Elizabeth, you said you wanted to look at this one?
Travels,
This is a CNA.
Oh, this is the PNN one.
no, yeah, I don't, oh, good, because I was gonna say, boy, I don't remember.
There's one of
This,
the.
yeah, this came with the collection of the federal programs. Ones, basically, updates, small updates.
Now, who would be your designee on that?
The federal programs coordinator.
Okay. Should that be marked on there also?
What page are you on?
So this
The
is
first
about the
page.
validity of payments for travel costs shall be determined by me. So when someone does a travel reimbursement, the federal programs coordinator signs off on it and then I sign off on it. So it's already built into our procedure that I see it and so I'm kind of at the end of the approval chain for travel reimbursements so remember for travel reimbursements, we ask for the member to submit an anticipated costs thing so we can approve that first and then after.
How
say-
do we in this stop what happened to me earlier this year?
It's not in this policy, that's in how we do, that's that two paper thing that I just talked about.
Okay,
Yeah, this is federal.
all right,
I did have one question, Chair.
go ahead.
First, thank you. The only thing I was gonna say on page 1, this is one time though where I don't like the word superintendent or designee. This is one time where I would just like to see the word superintendent. Just for the future, just get rid of the word or designee.
Well, I think I agree with what you're saying, but if he's out of town or doing something, the designee could be Randy.
Okay, superintendent or assistant
Yeah,
superintendent.
could we change it from that to assistant superintendent?
You okay with that,
Or
Randy?
designee?
Is that okay? I prefer that just simply because, yeah, designee can be
That way we know
John
who's.
Smith.
So let's change superintendent or designee to superintendent or assistant superintendent.
And
You
then,
okay with that, Randy?
Yep.
okay, and then one more thing. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Page 2. This is something that's been talked about for years, but we never had time to go and visit it. But now this may open it up, so sometime in the near future. One thing the school board has never done, and they don't have to, but some school districts do, is they put a limit in the policy on how much can be spent per person for meals, for hotels, what have you. So if you look at page 2, it's finally
Mhm.
being brought up, page 2, second
Yeah,
paragraph. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to have some sort of rates developed that are reasonable. So, and I know that the federal government, if we could maybe start there, what rates that they use.
well, I know that, some of the stuff I've been involved in the past always said, but we'll give you a $35
Per day or
amount
whatever.
per day.
That's what I'm
per
saying.
diem,
We've never done
And
that.
and that's it. And if you use it, fine. If you don't, that's your fault.
And if you want to get 2 steaks instead of,
Yeah,
you
the
pay the difference.
extra's on you.
That's right. So we've never done this, and this is something it's been on the radar for years. So this is my recommendation for consideration. The federal government, different agencies have those rates established for their employees. There's also school districts that have also done this. So you're the chair. I don't know how you want some sort of collective done so we can have some examples that are reasonable with the understanding we live in rural America, but some of the trainings and stuff may
They're
be
not
going to larger
rural
cities. So,
So we could use, I think perhaps to your point, that second line there is just using the federal guidelines for reimbursement
Because they're already established.
because they're
Right.
established.
if
So that,
that's what, we don't, I don't know what those guidelines are. Are they too restrictive? So that's what I'm saying. I've never reviewed them, but so I don't want to make sure that it's flexible enough that, let's say you guys are going to New Orleans,
Mhm.
okay? Going to New Orleans versus State Colleges,
Well,
Different.
this says it won't exceed per diem limits established by the board. Do we already have those?
no, we don't. That's what I'm saying. We've never done this yet, and we should.
Well, yeah, because we need to set a per diem limit.
Yes,
Well,
we
We
and
do.
used
so-
to have this here.
We used to use, when I was at Penn College, Williamsport, the GSA website.
That's-
Because all you do is punch in a zip code and it tells you, so I just put in Harrisburg, so. In Harrisburg, the typical per diem would be 18 for breakfast, 20 for lunch, 31 for dinner.
That's me and my husband and my girlfriend.
So-
Well,
But
Here,
that's,
I mean,
that's,
here.
that's what the, yeah,
Sorry.
that's what they're just saying. So,
Yeah, because I think it'd be advantageous just to use that. It's already established and it's already
Yeah,
been
right.
approved by the federal government. I don't know. I don't see a reason to make it more complicated than it needs to be if that already exists.
okay, so you
It
could,
just probably needs to be clearly outlined that you will use that. particular
right, so we just
source.
have to, rather than checking the board, we check the second line there.
Right.
yes,
I still think that,
So so what I don't want to do is put the board in the position to have to do all of the research for
Oh, no.
all of the different places that we would go and all that sort of thing. So if we just check the second line there instead of the first line, it kind of cleans that up because it's the federal government deciding if you go to New Orleans or State College or Lock Haven or whatever, it establishes a price guideline for per diem rates.
yeah.
I'll be honest with you, at this point, I can't make a decision because I have never looked into this deeply and we want it to be reasonable, but on the flip side of the coin, unless,
I've used
Swear?
that program
Yeah.
before that
You
wanna
Randy's
just do that?
talking about,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I've always used.
Okay.
I've always
It's always
used it.
gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we'll take, we'll mark the Federal General Services Administration for the locale where it occurred. I don't know how you would ever make that board policy though.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Well, that, you are making it board policy. You mean in terms of deciding per diem?
Yeah.
Specific per diem rates? Yeah, well, so you could, as a board, decide that no one is going to get more than $35 a day, for instance. Which would be really hard because you
Right.
can't. get
Because
a
of
lunch anymore
different
without- for
locales.
35 days, for $35.
All right, so let's make it the second one, the Federal General
Okay.
Services.
I would say too, if we were audited, it's a very clean way. to,
Right.
You know, we went. right
Perfect.
Here. And this is
Perfect.
how we
That's
got the rates and they're all.
That's what I need to
exactly
hear.
as- yeah.
And I agree with that.
great. Good. So get rid of the board.
Okay,
Yeah, that would just be a roller coaster nightmare. Okay, good.
all right. Any other questions on that one? Let's go to number 3, policy 827, the conflict of interest.
Is this brand new? I don't.
No, it's just an update.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, this doesn't look,
So it's adding in a paragraph about federal.
mhm.
The federal purposes.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I'm okay with that.
It's basically, we don't have much flexibility. It is what it is. Although I'll be honest with you, I don't know what this means. Not that this matters, but I'm just out of my own curiosity. If there's a quick answer, page 3. I guess this third section, no board member or district employee shall accept an honorarium?
Yeah.
But that's not money. Isn't an honorarium like, someone is a guest speaker at a university and they make them a honorarium member of board of trust or what? I don't understand what that means.
It can be a gift or it's a gift that has some sort of financial value.
Right.
Well, it says here, it says payment made recognition of published works, appearances, speeches and presentations, and which is not intended as consideration for the value of such services which are non-public, occupational, or professional in nature. The term does not include tokens presented or provided which are of de minimis economic impact. Okay, so here's my question. I believe it was Dr. Martin had this in her contract and it's no problem. And then we carried it over to your contract where allowing the superintendent, I'm just using this as an example, please, just as an example. Where the superintendent is allowed to have a job outside of being a superintendent as long as it doesn't affect blah, 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 blah. So,
It's not really a
Is
job,
that-
it's a speaking engagement or something like that. If University of Wisconsin were to ask me to come back and speak on a topic that is centered around my PhD, then according to my contract, they can pay me for it.
okay, but this policy says they can't, is what's what I'm saying is I don't understand it. So here's my recommendation to consideration. For this particular one, to make sure that our employees, like if you go to a safety training, Randy, and you were hired to give a talk, okay? Would you still be allowed to do that? I don't know. Right now, I don't feel confident unless the solicitor looks at this and says, well, that's okay. Our employees, or not our employees, the employees can still go do a talk and get paid for it or do something part-time. That still has to do with education. I'll be honest with you, I
think that this is okay just the way it is. Simply because,
okay,
it stops what you're talking about.
but what I'm trying to say is if the school board has a contract with an employee that allows the employee to go do X, Y, and Z outside of their normal job time, are we following the law? I don't know.
But this is stopping that.
But that means we have to change the contracts, don't we? That's why I'm asking for the solicitor to take a look-see and just give us an opinion.
Yeah,
Um,
I see what she's saying. Your contract says you can, this says you can't. And so if we adopt this, does that mean that we have to change
He's
your
out of
contract?
compliance. I don't
Does that
know.
throw you out of compliance?
I have no
I
idea.
understand what she's saying
So
now.
my understanding or my thinking on this is about
Conflict of interest.
conflict of interest. So that would be a board member or a district employee accepting an honorarium from the district.
Mm,
Because that paragraph before that sentence that you're talking about, Elizabeth, is super important, right? Any board member or employee who is in the discharge of his or her official duties would be required to vote on a matter that would result in a conflict of interest. So it's not saying that Frank couldn't go speak at, something, a university, because there's no conflict of interest in that.
Right.
Right.
I think it's a matter of, you're not allowed to do it if there's a conflict of interest.
Right.
Like
If-
Frank is working for, I'm trying to think of an example.
Okay, I
Would
just-
be.
So,
I just think it's not clear.
Yeah.
It's very not clear, and I think we can do better. And this is just one where I would like the solicitor, not PSBA, but our solicitor, take a look at it just to make sure that if there's any grammar or anything that just needs to clarify it, because I like to think it's not just me, but maybe it is just me, that it's unclear.
Chris, are you in agreement that this needs to go to the solicitor to review that line?
Why don't we? He could glance over this quick. I wouldn't have a problem with that, just to make sure that we're good with that.
It's that one legal definition of honorarium.
Okay,
That's the one that,
well, it's in the context of the rest of that,
Right.
that section there. So, yeah, I can have him take a look at it. I don't think that he will have time to draft a response before this Thursday meeting.
So we'll table this one.
I mean, it won't impact anything that you're doing, right? If this
No,
isn't
no,
passed in
this is-
30 days?
no.
Okay, good,
Second
good,
reading.
good. Yeah, that's the only ones, the honorarium, it's just, I don't want to see you
So
guys
we
get,
can just, I mean, it's not a big policy for him to look at, but as soon as he could, we'll just table this and for this month, and maybe he'll have it back by next month.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's just that word honorarium, the legislation and,
right, I understand.
okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, let's keep the train going. Under C for discussion, policy 333, professional development.
So as a side note, Elizabeth, just looking at the law that was behind that one,
Mhm.
they're separating getting paid for publishing or speaking from other, just giving you money for something. So I think the policy is addressing, you can't just get money because you're a board member. You can if you go and do something, right? That's it. When you look at the definition of honorarium and that law that's behind it,
Mhm.
it's separating those two things.
Okay, so I mean, I just,
This is the one.
I
she
just
brought
feel
up
like
before.
if I go speak somewhere and someone wants to pay me.
You can get paid for it.
Hmm.
Payment made in recognition of public works, appearances, speeches, and presentations. And which is not intended as consideration for the value, right? So it's kind of separating the things that, and not in consideration for.
Okay. I
But-
still wouldn't
but
feel
I'll-
comfortable,
yeah,
so,
So I'll
thank
show
you.
it to him.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chair, whenever you're ready.
What are you having thoughts on this?
Number, page 1,
Yeah,
go back to the way we used to do it.
I don't know how we used to do it.
I know this was
so-
before you, but I just wanted to, the way we used to do it was the board. The superintendent would come to the board with who wants to take what classes. And then the board, and where they were gonna take the classes and the cost. And for some reason, it was taken away from the board, but I think due to transparency, I think we should put the word back in there. It was the first sentence. Only courses of study that are pre-approved by the board. It's 3 words. For some reason, it was,
I can see that
that's it.
because there's nothing there to show what courses are pre-approved. And who's taking what
Yep.
is huge.
So it used to be that way, it got changed, and I can explain the history if you want, but due to, I think now, this would be the time to change it back.
Okay,
So just
Brett-
to be clear, this is totally within my purview as the superintendent, as operating how the school district works. Making sure that the professional development that people are engaging in, that the district is paying for, is in alignment with our mission, vision, and strategic plan or comprehensive plan. right? That's my job. And I sign off on stuff that fits within that, right? It's people that are getting teaching degrees or they're getting specific reading intervention licensures or those sorts of things. I don't know the board's background in all of the areas around education and instructional improvement and all that sort of thing. But since that's typically outside of your profession, it seems to me that I should be the one looking at that and whether or not it fits for if the education that they're getting fits within what the board has said that we should be working on comprehensive plan, mission, vision.
So should that say, only courses of study that are pre-approved by the superintendent?
Shall be approved by the board. That's,
Yeah.
that's basically the way it used to be. The superintendent, you're absolutely correct, Dr. Redmond. Superintendent works with their staff. And the superintendent decides what would be a good fit for that particular individual moving
Mhm.
forward to be a better, I'll say teacher. But then when push comes to shove, that recommendation list comes to the board and then the board approves it.
But it's not push, custom, shove. The way I'm understanding what you're saying is all of them come to you. That's different from push comes to shove.
And I also think you have to be very clear in the distinction because this policy is regarding all professional learning, not just coursework.
Well, then,
So this
Sure.
is like, I don't think that you would want to be in the weeds of like, hey, we're having a safety care training next week and you have to approve that. Like, that's not realistic or reasonable,
Right.
right? So I
Mhm.
think if there has to be because this policy is inclusive of all
Yeah, that's right.
professional
It's all
learning,
professional
not
learning.
just coursework.
okay, well then we have to subdivide it. So once the credit courses, okay, the credit courses. It's not, it has to do with actual getting a degree. Okay, or I'm not talking about getting a pesticide certification. All right, I mean, obviously, I'm talking about when someone wants to take a classes to get a degree. So however that needs to be worded, so it goes, the final determination goes to the board. Now, I'm not talking about, going to a safety committee meeting because you have to get so many credits per year to be the safety coordinator. That's totally separate. Those are mandatory mandated trainings.
That's Con Ed training.
Okay, I'm talking about someone who wants to go and become a lawyer or who wants to get, a doctorate in nursing, whatever that may be. You see what I'm saying? There's the
Yeah,
distinction.
and respectfully, I disagree with your assessment on. I think it should not be the board's job to determine the value of an education that an employee wants to pursue. I think that should be my job to, again, make sure it's in alignment with our mission, vision, values. It's okay for us to have different opinions on that. If you want to go a different direction, that's the board's determination, but I disagree with your point on that.
What about if you approve somebody to make sure that whatever degree they're getting is used for the school?
And that is already part of the process. There's a
Yeah.
whole tuition course approval process that's already outlined,
Yeah,
and
we're
that's all
already
part of it. Like,
Yeah, we're
it
already
clearly
doing that.
states it has to be directly related to your,
Well, then-
your roles and responsibilities as in your current role, and it's not even necessarily.
Yeah, because
Is
then
that
we
it?
get into the repayment program that we just went through.
Correct.
that.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
then
and the
how-
dollar amount of that's already outlined in the CBA, right? You can't go beyond a certain dollar
Right,
amount
that's
per year.
So that's an AR?
I don't remember where that one sits, but it's our process, right?
Okay, well, here, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to use a real example here, okay? Being paid to become a lawyer is not the school district's job. Okay, for professional development. And so there has to be some sort of checks and balances or some sort of evaluation, something to there's gotta be, we're not talking about us sitting here. We're talking about starting today, moving forward and moving forward.
Mhm.
Okay, so to ensure that our employee doesn't become a lawyer, that the taxpayers are paying for those classes, think about this
If it's
policy.
not benefiting the school.
No, it's not.
district.
No, it's
I
not.
see what she's saying
Yeah,
now.
I hear you.
So However, if you want to table this again and talk amongst yourselves, because we don't want to, no board member wants to stand in your way to get our folks trained
Mhm.
and to be better at doing their job here.
Yes.
But at the flip side of the coin, there has to be some sort of checks and balances, something that we're not blindsided when we find out after the fact. So,
I can see what she's saying to the point of if we're spending taxpayer money to educate somebody,
Right.
then the taxpayers should see a benefit of that.
mhm.
On the same token,
Well, the taxpayer may not, but the students should.
yes. And those are our taxpayers. I'm all for anybody that wants to better themselves
Mhm.
and move on up the ladder. I'm 100% behind that.
Me too.
But for the taxpayers to pay for somebody to become a lawyer or a doctor or a nurse or something like that, and it's not gonna benefit the students or the school.
I don't disagree with you at all. I wasn't here when the decision that you were referring to
I-
was made.
Right.
But we have a process and a procedure in place to get at the very thing that you're talking about.
Okay, so then let's put that part of that in the policy, so we all see it. Okay, please, please. So however you want it, however this is worded, or however you want to do it. But right now, it's just an open book, and we just want to have a little bit of black and white put in here, please.
Could you do something like only the courses of study that can benefit the district and
Well, maybe, so I hear what you're saying there. I wonder if maybe it should read only the courses of study that are pre-approved
Using the process.
using the established district process, which includes the benefit to kids and all that sort of thing. So we can just insert a little phrase in there that says, that it refers it back to the process that we use to make sure it is
Mhm.
connected to providing an improvement to the condition for learning for kids.
but
Because
does
those
that
processes are also-
cover like somebody becoming a lawyer and getting their degree and leaving?
Well, we do have a payment plan for people that leave in a couple of years or whatever. And we're never gonna be able to stop people from moving on to another place of employment if they want to.
Right,
But it certainly should get at someone who's taking coursework that isn't in alignment with their job function.
right.
and
That
us
should
paying
be
for it.
agreed upon ahead of
Yeah,
time,
right. Yep.
that you will repay this.
Well, it's already written in.
It's in the CBA.
Yeah, it's in the
Is
CBA.
it? Okay, see, I've never seen that.
No, we don't have.
And the
that.
process is
Sure
in
you
the
do.
CBA
It's
as
on-
well.
it's on-
Like here's
online.
what
That's on the webpage?
Yeah.
you
Oh.
go through for tuition approval, like all of that is outlined in in the collective bargaining.
Could that be tagged on to the end of this policy? So that if you're looking at this, you could go right to that and read it?
Could you just put the language
per-
as per the collective
Yeah,
bargaining
as per the
agreement?
CBA.
Because they're
Yeah.
already on the website.
As per the CBA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think tagging it on there because not every situation will be connected to a CBA.
No, it won't, like.
And so we
Right.
don't want to always, right, like if you have a question about whether or not you should go to the professional learning, it's not always going to be the CBA and then which CBA. So there's,
Right,
I think we need to be a little careful about what language we put in here and what links we put in there because we can't push anybody in a universal direction when that's not appropriate for every situation.
And ultimately, the process that we use for course approval is aligned to the CBA.
right. So we're
And
just
from
gonna,
CBAs.
change that language a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll tweak it a little bit.
I have every confidence that you understand where we're going with this. So if you want to put something in bold and we can take a look-see at it, that would be really helpful. Good.
So it's in that first line of graduate/special courses.
Yes.
Okay.
All I wrote, Christine, was change the language.
Okay, are we going to table this or are we going to move it forward to?
So I can probably have that sent to the committee later today.
Okay,
Just, and then I'll just put out that something for that first paragraph in the graduate/special courses.
okay.
Okay, I'm
You
sorry.
all right with that?
Yes, can I have one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. All right, page 2.
Yeah.
Bear with me. In fact, we can table this. I'm more than happy, okay? If we table it, come back when we have that language or however you want to do it. But this is something, I've been here 7 years and I've never, ever, ever heard about this.
Okay,
Page 2, professional education plan. The board shall appoint to the professional education committee, parents, guardians, and representatives of the community and local businesses, representative of administrative, teachers and educational specialists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I have never sat at the table and heard about the board appointing these folks. So, be that as it may, moving forward, it appears that this is something we should be doing.
This is actually inclusive of the comprehensive plan, Elizabeth. So the professional education plan is a part of the district comprehensive plan. It is a subsection of the comprehensive plan. So when it says every 3 years, it's because those 3 years align with the timeline of the comprehensive plan. So like we're getting ready to start a new comp plan process next year. We will revise the professional development plan or professional education plan as we redevelop that comprehensive plan.
And that will be the point at which the board will appoint
Okay, well, we've never,
the parents, guardians, but again, I can't speak to that before I hear you, but that'll be the point when we get into starting up the new comprehensive plan redevelopment committee. I'll ask the board
thank you.
for parents, guardians, and representatives of the community and local businesses.
Yeah, and please, in case if I forget, I want to make sure we put out press releases, put it on the webpage, so folks can come to us. And so people aren't cherry picked. Thank you.
okay, so we're good with that. You'll get some changes of that and get it out to us.
On that first page, yep, we'll get that.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you.
And then last but not least, number 2, discussion on ARs. I asked to put that on because there's been a bunch of policies. Last year, when we were doing the cyclic review and all that, we were
Excuse me.
going over hundreds of policies. We never really went over much of an AR.
When there were, we had ARs.
Yeah, we did.
Included those in the cyclical review for the board to look at, for the committee to look at.
Right. What I'm wondering is when we're doing stuff like this and we have policies that we're gonna go over, if there is an AR, can we automatically make them include them so that we're looking at that at the same time we are
That's
the
what we have
policy?
been doing.
Okay,
That it comes to the committee. When ARs come up for revision or we change ARs, we bring them to this committee for you to look at.
okay, cause I'd like to see, all the ARs that when we're doing this, to make sure we're all in line with
Yep.
everything.
Anytime there's a change to ARs,
Okay,
Okay.
that's what has been going on for the last year and a half.
yes,
Okay, little quick back history. Again, this was before you. We started to attach, we would do the ARs when we did the policies, not all the time, but, and they would always go, then they would go on board docs after they went through the procedure. Now, I've noticed that the ARs, doesn't seem to be a lot of ARs in board docs attached to the policies. Now, example is a 333. What school district was that I gave you? Dolphin? There's a bunch of PSBA ARs for 333. So they were there and we paid for them. Now, I forwarded that email from PSBA. We pay for how many ARs we get free every year, or included in our contract, something like 25. Please don't quote me on that number. But bottom line, PSBA, and the clock just reset. So you have up until, I think it's June 1st. And then the clock
believe.
resets. So now we have a new clock with PSBA. So any other new ARs that we don't have currently, you can request whichever ones you want to start with. They have a
So-
whole list.
So if I could,
Okay,
Christine and I have been working with PSBA to look at all of the available ARs and compare them to our ARs. And we started off with the board operating guidelines, which is a version of ARs. And we're gonna be going through that list when we get a new set available, like you're talking about. We go through the next 25 or 33 or however many it is. And so we can work through all the ARs to make sure that we are up to date and current with all the ARs. A lot of the ones that you showed, those ARs when you look at the language of those, are included in our policy. So it would be redundant to
Okay,
have both policy and
Right.
AR, but that's the work we're doing, is we're assessing all those ARs and saying, do we need to put this in place? Do we already have it in place? Do we have it somewhere else or some other version or whatever? But we're looking through all of those.
Okay, so, man, just one last
Yeah,
thing.
go
Thank you.
ahead.
So, can we agree? Now, we don't have to change the 000 now, but can we agree that when you have an AR that you like, that feels that it's ready to go, let's just go ahead, start putting them on board docs with the actual policy, so they're all in one place. That's what.
They are all in one place. You have to go from policy manual over here on board docs, where it
Mhm.
says policy manual, there's a little drop down. You have to go to administrative regulations and that pulls up the ARs. And so after they go through the process of PSBA, cleaning up all the links and all that sort of thing,
Mhm.
and we get them back, then Christine posts them under the AR section in our policy.
See, I'm not seeing an AR section.
Well, that's the thing. Other school districts, I'm not saying we have to do what other school
So if
districts
you go
do.
to
Policy.
But
Policies and then where are your list
It
of
just-
policies over here?
it's just so
Oh,
much
just go
more
to next.
cohesive.
Oh, okay,
Policies. No, just click on the,
Do you
go
see
to
it?
active,
yeah, there's where it says policy
Okay.
manual.
yeah.
There's a
Click on
lot
that.
in draft right now because
Oh,
I'm trying to
okay,
get them to
okay.
put our Keystone.
Yeah,
logo.
I see that, yeah, they're there, Elizabeth.
No, well, that's
So
why,
if you go
that's
under
wonderful. It is great. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Um,
but there's a lot in
but
draft right now
here's
because
the-
I have them trying to put our logo on.
Hmm.
Here's the thing. Other school districts do this and it seems to be easier, okay? Easier. You don't have two separate drop downs. Just have
Okay.
one where it says policies, and then with the policy, you automatically have the AR attached to it. The reason why I'm saying this is it really does help because,
That way you
We-
don't have to flip flop back and
and
forth.
then who knows to be flip-flopping back and forth. When we leave, are we gonna expect everybody
Right.
else to know you gotta flip back, flip back, flip back? No. And I'll be honest with you, I've done this. Where you put out what the agenda's gonna be and I look at it, and sometimes I forget to check under AR. And then,
So would it be hard to list where we have a policy? And right under each individual policy, list the AR?
I have to talk to the board docs people, because I don't disagree that it would make it easier to find things.
Right,
What I think would be more confusing, the way it has it listed out, where you have programs, for
Right.
instance, a 100s. And if we could have the 100s and then tabbed over a little bit would be any AR. So nested under 100 would be any ARs that are associated with 100. If they keep it justified all the way to the left, all the way down, then it gets really busy.
right,
Hard
I
to figure
understand
out the
that.
difference between a policy and an AR. But we'll talk to board docs about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
would be
you're
lovely.
taking a step out of it, and that would make it easier
I
in
hear
all
you.
honesty.
great, yeah, Dolphin, and a lot of school districts, you'll see, they'll click on the policy and there's gonna be attachments, and it says AR. So I mean, it's
All right,
good.
so you two can investigate
Yep,
that and
we'll
get
work on it.
back to us.
Well, if we can make a change, we'll just make the change. No reason
Okay.
to bring that back.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Okay, let's adjourn the meeting at 11:17.
Super terrific.